Wood is tough stuff, which is why we use it to hold up houses, and trees use it to hold up themselves. If you've ever swung an axe against a tree, you know chipping away wood takes a lot of force. Now imagine chipping away that wood with your face. That's what it's like to be a woodpecker, hammering a tree 20 times a second, 10,000 times a day, face first. The force of a peck is like headbutting a tree at full sprint, which you should not try at home. So why don't woodpeckers get concussions? And if they did, what would they see flying around their head? They say it's not the fall that kills you, it's the sudden stop at the end. Anyone who's ever watched a crash test video knows that when the car stops moving, the bodies inside it don't. This is basically the inside of your head right before you get a concussion. The human skull is surprisingly strong and flexible, but the delicate hunk of meat inside is more like a blob of jello floating in liquid. A rapid deceleration can cause your brain to hit the inside of your skull and damage neurons and other cells. This is called a concussion. Woodpeckers are built for headbanging. Spongy skull bones, even special eyelids that close just before impact. But their real anti-headache secrets are deeper inside. Woodpeckers will hammer to show off territory or make nests, but mostly it's to look for food. After they drill a hole, they use their tongue like a spear to reach inside and draw out insects or nectar. But considering that tongue can be 3 times the length of its beak, where do they keep it when it's not being used? There's a bony support inside bird tongues called the hyoid. We have a hyoid bone too, underneath our tongue, but in a woodpecker it goes out the back of its mouth, all the way around its skull, and ends up between its eyes. Scientists think this bone and muscle wrapper may act like a seatbelt and absorb some of the shock when a bird's head decelerates. And for a woodpecker's head to move from full speed to stopped, in that amount of time, our brains could take 300 Gs before concussion. But woodpecker brains can withstand more than 4,000 Gs. How is that possible? This gets us to the real reason woodpeckers don't get concussions. An engineer would say woodpecker brains and human brains are built from the same material, but the mathematics of scale mean that bird brains can take a bigger banging. So the main reason woodpeckers don't get concussions is because they're small. I know it's kind of obvious, but we're stuck with a hard knock truth. They evolved to take an impact and we didn't. And as long as
Okay guys, so we're going to be doing a woodpecker watercolor picture. It is going to be a little bit more of a challenge, but I believe in you guys, we can do this. So watch the instructions carefully and let's get going. Okay, so this is what the bird looks like. It's called a cardinal woodpecker, and we are going to draw this on an A3 piece of paper, if possible. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser, and I'm going to show you how to draw this bird. Drawing birds is actually a really simple process. You just need to get those initial shapes correct, and then we're going to paint this without using a black Koki to outline. So let's get going. Alright, so our first step is to draw our main branch. So what I'm doing is I'm just also thinking about my composition of the page. I am drawing my branch slightly to the right because I need to fit my bird in. And so you'll see that my branch is kind of at a bit of an angle, and it's much more on the right hand side. And when I'm thinking about composition, I'm adding some branches at the top to make it a little bit heavier because my bird is going to be sitting in the space on the left hand side. Alright, let's talk about the bird shape. So when you're looking at this bird, you can obviously see the head and the body have 2 different shapes. So the body shape is kind of like what looks like an upside down teardrop. And then the head will be kind of like a little oval round part, okay? Something that's very important though when you're looking at the bird is that obviously the neck and the head wouldn't join like that. So you need to blend those 2 shapes together to create your bird. You can elongate the head if you've done a round thing like what I did, and then you need to add a beak, and that's very basically the shape of the bird. Then you can add his little claws, and just remember he's sitting on the tree trunk, so his legs will kind of come up and around with his claws, and then you can add a little tail onto that as well, and then we'll do all the details and things later when we start the painting. Right now you're just looking for the shape of your bird. Okay, so I'm now going to draw this on my my main piece of paper. So I would try and do a sketch before you try this. And obviously depending on which side you've done your branch will change the shape of your bird. So now I'm doing it the opposite way around. There's my circle, there's my upside down tear shape. I'm joining the head to the body of the bird, and then I'm going to add my beak and my extra tail feathers and the legs, the little claws to hang on to the branch. Okay, it's important when you've got your shape of the bird correct to be able to go back and just add those little details that you maybe have missed. The eye placement, the little cardinal feathers at the top, the wing placement, and then you're going to move on to your background. Okay, so when you're using paint, one of the most important things to think about is layering. So when you have a base layer of color down, now it's important to go back in and layer more paint on top of that base color. As you can see, I'm layering browns and dark browns on top of my bark to make it a little bit more realistic. And I'm going to move on to the background now, and I'm going to actually do some kind of in the distance trees. So I do long swipes of blue in the background, and then I'm going to add some branches to that. And the reason why I'm using blue is because the blue does tend to make it look like it's far away. So if you've chosen the color scheme that I have, then I would suggest that you go for some blue. But as you can see, I'm going to just start layering and layering and layering. Onto my bird, I can see that my bird has speckled wings, and it's got that red cardinal at the top, obviously. And so I'm following the picture, but I'm also trying to make sure that I'm trying to blend my colors as well as leaving the picture to have enough time to dry, because every time you do a new layer you should really leave that paint to dry, particularly with watercolors. So I'm just trying to build more and more on my bird, as you can see, and I hope that I haven't gone too fast here, but the more layers you add, the more professional looking your picture will end up looking. Okay, so I'm so excited to see your pictures, guys. I really hope that you challenge yourself with this, and I can't wait to see what you end up with.